But one of the things that I found has been pretty interesting about all of this is the excitement that you used to have in recruiting, where you would take, recruiting experts' word for it, like Berm, right? So you listen to Berm. Berm goes, "This guy's the real deal." And you go, "Well, you got to," and Berm's one of the best. And you'd say, "Well, he knows. He's talked to folks, and they know what this guy's all about, and he's going to give a player comp for us," and so forth and so on. And that excitement that's been reserved for recruiting for all of these years is still there. But now that you see it, it's being transferred a little bit onto the transfer portal. And so when you hear that Ohio State gets a couple of players from Alabama, in total 3, they get a running back from Florida, they get a defensive back from Georgia, you go, whoa. Buckeyes are crushing it. They're going into the SEC, and they're pulling 3 starters out of Alabama's defense, and they're all coming up here. Or a corner out of Georgia, or a running back out of Florida. They're pulling them all up here. But it goes to kind of a bigger point of nobody really knows, you won't know, how good any of these guys are or what their impact will be. There are some instances where it's known. Like Sam Levitt's known. He's going to go to LSU, and he's going to play really well. We've seen him play a lot of football. But the idea that anybody out there watched enough Georgia football to know if Dominic Kelly can be somebody who can come in here and start right away and be a lockdown quarter like IGB, you're kidding yourself. Unless you just watch Georgia football all year and would have a point of reference on that. The same thing of James Smith or Kwai Rassah or Cam Coleman, who hopped in, who, by the way, was at Michigan before that. Jacoby Jackson. Do I have this right? He's in his 7th year?
Yep.
Of college football?
That's correct.
The kid from Florida? How?
I believe we missed this too, Bo. Hunter Welsing, the tight end that's coming from Northwestern. He will also be in his 7th year of college football. These are 2 kids from the 2020 recruiting class. Ohio State this past year had nobody from the 2020 recruiting class.
How is that even possible? How is 7 years possible? So you're going to get a COVID and you get a red shirt. Okay, that's 2.
And then you probably got a medical red shirt as well in there.
I mean, I'm happy to have him, but like is this a 24-year-old man? It's coming here, 25-year-old man? Like, is that what we're dealing with?
And
it is.
And it sucks
a
little for these high school kids that want spots.
Oh, that's over.
Yeah.
That's over. I don't think you will see, other than the top end of it, the Chris Henrys, the Jeremiah Smiths, those type of cats that you compensate and you expect them to play right away. I think what recruiting will, I think it's the medium. My theory on this is that you will see 3-star. I think that what Ohio State will do in recruiting is they will try to get a handful of guys, 5 or 6, that they think can come in and compete right away and play right away. And that they'll still big game hunt at the very top of the board in terms of players who could come in here. And I think they'll still be very active in that. But then I think you're not going to go to battle for 4-star guys who are developmental players. I don't think you're going to do that. I don't think you're going to get into bidding wars for 4-star guys. And the only reason I'm using the 4 and 5-star, because trust me, I'm aware that Indiana doesn't have any 5-stars and they're playing for the national title and are prohibitive favorites. I get it. But that's all transfer stuff, right? So the only reason I'm using it is just to identify how guys are viewed. So I don't think they're going to, if there is a 4-star tackle or even a 5-star tackle that they're in on, I don't even know if they'll be in on them anymore. But even if they are, and it comes down to a bidding war between them and Tennessee, then just go to Tennessee. We'll see in 2 years. I don't think you do that. So I think what the recruiting classes will be 5 to 6 high-end, ultra high-end, give a chance to compete right away guys. And then I think the middle class of a recruiting class is going to almost entirely disappear. And I think what then you're going to have is a baseline of 3 and low 4-star guys who are Ohioans, who understand the patience that comes with and view that there is a currency to being a Buckeye. That's what I think these recruiting classes are going to look like. I think they're going to be made up of between 15 and 20 guys. I don't think you're ever going to see a 28-teamer again, 28-player again. And I think that's how you got to go about your business. And then you're going to live in this portal world and try and pull the guys that you want. But they were in on the Desir twins, the kids from Florida State, but their buyout at Florida State was too big. Got this from the Florida State side of it. And so those 2 kids this morning, I wake up and I see they're getting a new NIL deal to stay at Florida State. Well, they were trying to come here, but they couldn't get out of whatever contract they have. And then, so the pushback to that would be, if you've listened regularly, what contract? None of these things are enforceable. So I don't know. But you talk yourself into, and this is kind of the overarching thing, you talk yourself into being excited about players who, in some instances and in many instances, you had no interest in the recruiting process.
Yeah, you look at whatever stars they've accumulated since being in college, and you weigh those for some strange reason. Yeah, I've never been the high school football recruit guy. I've even less so with the transfer portal recruits because Ohio State's landed some pretty big fish in terms of guys on the offensive line that I was told or had played really well at the colleges before they landed at Ohio State. And when they got to Ohio State, they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And so you have to be, and I was thinking about basketball the other day with Great Osborne from Washington, because I think UCLA is in a similar situation where they landed a really big fish in the transfer portal, and he's done nothing for the Bruins, who will be in town tomorrow in a game you can hear on the Fan at 1 o'clock. But it's all of these portal guys, they've played really well at one location, so they get all of these stars attributed to them, and the tackle from Colorado, it's like what in any world is Ohio State have any interest in getting into a bidding war for him?
At least it's known a little bit. Like, he was an all Big Ten guy, so at least you're getting a stud left tackle, whoever gets him. Like, he's a little bit known. The Great Osabar's example is a really great one, Reese, because that kid's he's from England. He was discovered by Danny Sprinkle, who's a Montana State guy, same age as me, and was the coach at Montana State. So they find him in England. He's standout at Montana State. They make the playoff. They make the tournament a couple years in a row. Danny gets the job at Utah State. He brings Great Osabar with him. Danny is at Utah State for 1 year. Then Washington job comes open, and he goes to Washington, takes Great Osabar with him. So now Great Osabar has gotten paid at Utah State. He's been richly compensated at Washington, and they got nothing out of it last year. It's even riskier in hoops. Look at Kentucky. Look at Kentucky's roster in basketball, and I know you're not knee deep in the muck on that, nor am I, but NBC watches them. They spent millions on predominantly veteran portal players. Known veteran portal players, SEC guys, all SEC type guys, brought him into Kentucky. They can't get him to row in the same direction at all. And so that's the gamble you play every single year. And when you miss on one of them, someone's going to be held accountable. At Kentucky, it's probably going to be Mark Pope. Like, folks don't like losing their money without getting an ROI on it. And you will see more and more of that. The reality is, I don't know if any of these guys are the difference makers. It almost feels to me a little bit, Bake, like it's almost like prospect musical chairs.
Yeah, it sure seems like that. And we've talked about, is there enough seats for everyone in this? What It seems like Ohio State is doing here, and I don't know if people, it's just so different than what we're used to. So people are having a hard time digesting all of it and wrapping their head around it and figuring out what's the way to go and what isn't. It seems like with what Ohio State is doing, especially this year in the portal, they've locked down their starters. Mm-hmm. What they're adding in the portal is depth pieces for the most part. Now, the safeties, I think, are a little different. In Terry Moore and Earl Little, I think you'll see those guys maybe start. Earl Little maybe be the guy that starts at the nickel for Ohio State, and Terry Moore starting next to Jalen McClain in that Caleb Downs role, which probably isn't fair that we say that.
Yeah, we got to stop.
We shouldn't compare anyone to Caleb Downs. So Terry Moore could probably have a really good year, and he still wouldn't be Caleb Downs. So that's probably not fair for us to do. But it just seems like Cam Calhoun, he's coming in here to be a backup to Devin Sanchez and Jermaine Matthews. And if he gives them some competition and pushes them a little bit, great. Maybe he or Dominic Kelly. And Dominic Kelly, I like this. He's a kid he's got 3 years of eligibility left.
Yeah.
So he's a guy that could come in and help you this year as far as depth and maybe be a starter down the road for you, possibly, if he's someone you decide you want to keep. But it seems like Ohio State, and this is probably because of where they've been in the transfer portal before now, they've gotten their starters. And they locked those guys down and kept them down. Like we talk about, Jeremiah is going to be a junior. Julian Sayen's going to be a redshirt sophomore. Bo Jackson's going to be a sophomore. So you weren't going to go out and get a starting running back if you were going to keep Bo Jackson. But, hey, this seventh-year guy who's actually 24 years old, and had some success at Florida last year. We could bring him in and help augment our running back room with Isaiah West and Bo Jackson and Turbo Rogers and those guys.